Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim from Eurolink. Today, I'm going to host this live session. Are you guys hearing me properly? Can you please let me know by doing comment below the comment box? Is there anyone hearing me? Just let me check out. Well, I think that everyone is hearing us. So, uh, here's our special guest for Minnesota State University, which is none other than Elizabeth Lawrence, the Assistant Director of International Admission, Recruitment, and Enrollment of Minnesota State University. First, I'm going to Elizabeth Lawrence. I'll request her to introduce herself to our candidates and our staffs. Please.
Thank you, Tim. Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, as Jim mentioned. I work at Minnesota State University, Mankato, with international students who are applying to the university. So I essentially am an admissions counselor to help guide students while they're going through the application process to Minnesota State University and helping them with any questions related to applications, admission, the student visa to apply to the US, scholarships, and enrollment questions. So I'm really looking forward today to helping answer some of those questions for any students who might be interested in studying in the United States.
That's great. Great to hear. So, I hope that the students who have been waiting for a long for the meeting between us, you don't have to wait more because we are here. We are going to live this session. We are going to shift to the main part right now. Uh, Please uh, tell me that why students should choose Minnesota State University.
That's a great question. For students who are thinking of studying outside of Bangladesh, you have many options. You have not just the US, but you also have Canada, you have Germany, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, many, many other places to choose from. And even in the United States, there are more than 4,000 universities and colleges. So when you think about how many options you have, it can seem a little bit overwhelming, I think, when you're just starting this process. And um, Minnesota State University Mankato is just one choice of the many, many options that you have. And so, what I recommend to students, before I even talk about my university, is find the best fit for you. And finding that right fit might look different than it does for your friend or maybe your brother or your sister who is studying at a university. So you really want to do a self-assessment of what are your academic and professional and personal goals, and how does a university help you meet those goals, and what is going to be the best return on that investment. Education, it takes time and it takes money. And so you really want to make sure that you're investing your time and your money at a place that's going to meet your goals. For students who choose Minnesota State University Mankato, they often come to our university for two primary reasons. First of all, we are affordable when it comes to universities in the United States. Many students are looking for affordable options to study. And Minnesota State University provides a guaranteed scholarship for every international student who is accepted to the university as a bachelor or undergraduate student. So when you apply and you are accepted, you automatically receive a $7,700 scholarship towards your tuition. So that's a big incentive for many students who are, looking for scholarship opportunities. But beyond scholarships, we also have amazing academic programs. And the combination of having high quality academics as well as affordability is very attractive to many international students. Additionally, we have almost 95% job placement rate. So within the first year of graduating from the program, students receive a job in their field of study. And that's really important. When I mentioned that return on your investment, that's ultimately why you're going to university, likely, is you're trying to find that job at the end. And so having an institution that has a high job or career placement is also very important. So that 94.7% is exactly what our students have for job placement within that first year. So it's a combination of many things why students choose Mankato, but to summarize, great academics, affordability, and return on investment. Those are the top three reasons that students choose Minnesota State Mankato.
That's great. Great to hear that it has a great job opportunity after completing their degree. So that will be a great thing from Minnesota State University. Like everyone, when they finish their study, everyone wants to get to attach with a job, a good job. They're looking for a good job, and when they will get their degree, like a public university like Minnesota State University, that will be more easier to find their job in any sector that they have completed about their degree. So you were talking about the scholarship. uh, is there any way, is it like okay, is it same for everyone, every students or every candidates?
Great clarification question. The scholarship I was referring to is the International Maverick Scholarship. This is the automatic scholarship that every student who is accepted to the university as an international student for an undergraduate program, that is the scholarship that they receive. And so every undergraduate international student receives that same scholarship, but we do have additional scholarships students can apply for outside of that main scholarship. One scholarship is called a Refer a Friend scholarship. So, for example, if you happen to know another student who's already studying at Minnesota State University Mankato, they can refer you to Minnesota State University. And if they're the ones who referred you, both that student that referred you and you each get a scholarship. Um, those are the two primary scholarships for our undergraduate students at this time. But in addition to that, we have many scholarships for currently enrolled students. So when you apply to Minnesota State, and if you choose to attend the university, each year we award hundreds of scholarships to students across campus. And so students can apply for scholarships directly related to their program of study. There are scholarships for leadership and volunteering, as well as many, many other scholarships where people are providing donated money for scholarship programs to the university. So that helps our students who are in the second, third, and fourth year of their program. So that's a little bit about scholarship. One thing I will mention for scholarships for Minnesota State University, we do not offer a full scholarship at this time. So there's no scholarship that will cover all of the expenses of the university. Each scholarship is only a partial scholarship. So keep that in mind. You can combine scholarships, but there's no one full scholarship.
Well, after getting scholarship, it really based on merit, right? So when a student will complete their first semester on university and after he did not get a good result which based on merit, is there any chance to get scholarship for him or her?
That's a great question. For our admission scholarship, which is guaranteed, it is based on academic merits and performance. So this also connects to our admission requirements. Um, for students who are applying to the bachelor's program, the admission requirements is a minimum 3.0 grade point average. So first year students who have no university experience need to have an equivalent to a 3.0 GPA. Typically for students coming from Bangladesh, that's usually like around a 3.0, because I believe it's on the 5.0 scale. So 3.0 to 5.0, depending on which curriculum you've studied in. We also require students to meet English proficiency requirements, such as the Duolingo English test score, the TOEFL, or the IELTS. The scores for those is a Duolingo English score of 95, or a TOEFL score of 61, or IELTS score of 5.5. So those are the two main requirements for admission, is that grade point average, the GPA, as well as the English language proficiency. You have the option of submitting additional tests or certifications, but those are the two main requirements. So based on those merits, that determines, number one, if a student is admitted to the university, but then number two, if they receive that scholarship. So I see the question from Ashkir, the highest amount of scholarship a student could receive as a first year student would be $8,200. That would include the International Maverick Scholarship plus the referral scholarship. So that's the maximum award at this time for a first year student. And then once you are a student at the university, that's when more scholarship opportunities become available to you. So you can combine additional scholarships from for the second, third, and fourth year students with the original scholarship you received your first year. So that International Maverick Scholarship is a guaranteed scholarship for all 4 years of your program as a bachelor student.
Well, our students from social media are commenting below, so we can read some comments now. Uh, okay, Rifat Rehan wrote that yes, you're audible. Then Johedul Hassan told that hello everyone. We have a question from Sumaya Habib. He asked that she has completed her MSc last year and she got 3.46 out of 4. She has Duolingo 120. Is she eligible for health science subject?
Yes, based on those requirements that Samaya is reporting, that she would be eligible for a health science program. So our minimum requirements, and it depends on which program or which level she's interested in. I'm assuming after completing the MSc, she's probably looking for a postgraduate program. Maybe, if I'm understanding that correct, I'm assuming that's a master's of science. So depending on which program she is interested in, most programs require a minimum 3.0 GPA. She has a 3.6 or 3.46, so that meets that requirement. And then for graduate programs, the Duolingo score is typically around 100. So having a 120 is a very good score. So she would be eligible for programs related to health science.
That's great. Sumaya Habib, you are eligible to apply. So, what if said hello, and then Asan said he has joined from Chattogram. Ashikur Rahman has asked a question that what is the highest amount scholarship? Yeah, already you answered it. Okay, so the next question is Aisha Mohsin, that she had completed her higher secondary in 2021 and she also got 4.60 out of 5. Well, I have to discuss about one thing that in USA, GPA, CGPA count out of 4, right? So
Correct.
in our country, till higher secondary certificate, there's count CGPA out of 5. So how can they will ensure that they are eligible to apply?
Yes, that's a great question. So it is out of 5 for students who are doing the higher secondary. I've seen quite a few transcripts from Bangladesh and reviewed the applications. And typically, the requirement still is a 3.0 or better, even in the Bangladesh education system. So while it's a 3.0 out of 4 in the US system, a 3.0 out of 5 is typically equivalent as well, depending on which curriculum the student studied in. And what we use to determine that when a student applies is a conversion, a grade conversion system. So a student will send us their higher secondary mark sheets or academic records. We will look at the total combined grades. We call that the cumulative grade point average. So we'll look at the cumulative grade point average and determine if a student meets the minimum requirement. And we convert it from the curriculum in Bangladesh to the US curriculum. So students do not need to go through any grade conversion process. They just need to send us the mark sheets, and then we determine if they meet that requirement.
That's great. So students don't have to worry about it. Well, so the question was about Aisha Hussein, that she had completed her HSC in 2021, and then she got a CGPA 4.60 out of 5, and her IELTS score is overall 6. Can she apply for computer science?
Yes, yes, absolutely. She seems like a great student. She has a good CGPA, and her IELTS score meets the minimum. So, again, the minimum IELTS score is 5.5. And then the cumulative GPA, her GPA of 4.6, is above that 3.0 requirement. So, she would be eligible to apply for the Bachelor of Science in Computer Science.
That's great. So you were talking about the requirements for bachelor. But if I'm going to talk about the requirements for master's or MSc students, then we all know that Minnesota State University accepts the lowest band score, which is 5.5. But if I talk about some master's program, is there any other language or English test which accept for master's program like Duolingo or TOEFL?
Yes, and that's a good clarification too. The requirements for admission are different between bachelor programs and master's programs. For our master's programs, they accept the TOEFL, the IELTS, and most programs are not every program. Most of them are starting to accept the Duolingo English test slowly. For our bachelor students, the Duolingo English test is accepted for all programs. At the master's level, they typically need to get authorization from the graduate program that they're applying for if they can submit a Duolingo English test. But those are the main tests that are required for English proficiency. Each master's program has their own admission requirements. So not every master's program is the same application process. Um, the programs determine their admission requirements. And some programs may require additional information, such as letters of recommendation, a personal statement, or statement of purpose. They might require a CV or resume. So there's different requirements depending on the program they're interested in. But on the university website, the admission requirements are very clearly stated for each master's program. So students can read those requirements and do a self-assessment to see if they meet the requirements for that program.
Well, so here is another question that from 𝙀𝙏𝙚𝙯. She wrote that I have passed my master's in English literature at 2006. After that, I have experience in job at present. I'm doing a job in teaching for last 10 years. My ITEP score is 5 out of 6. Am I eligible for master's program at early childhood education?
That's a great question. Thank you, Alifa. Um, Based on the requirements that you are explaining in your question, I think you would be a really good candidate for early childhood education. We do offer this program, as you mentioned, as a master's program. Um, and Minnesota State is actually known for our education programs. The university began as an institution to train educators and teachers. So education is deep in our history as a university. And so our education programs are some of the best in the state of Minnesota. And the early childhood education requirements, I will post those in the chat just as a follow-up so you can view exactly what the requirements are. But they will be asking for your mark sheets. So since you completed your master's in English literature in 2006, you would still need to provide those mark sheets. They would also be asking for a resume, and that is where you can explain your career experience since you've been working some time in the field of education. You can explain that in the resume as well as the personal statement. And then you would provide your ITEP scores as well for the master's program.
Well, so if anyone have a long study gap, as we have seen already at the before question that she has almost more than of 10 years gap. So what is the highest study gap accepted for Minnesota State University?
That's a good question. Believe it or not, we do not have a limitation on study gaps. So any student can apply to the university at any time, regardless of how much time they have had since their previous program. So the only requirement essentially for students is that they've completed higher secondary education. As long as they've completed higher secondary education, they can apply to the university even if they have a 5-year study gap or a 10-year study gap. Now, I say that because the university legally cannot discriminate against students based on their age or based on their experience. So we can accept anyone who meets the requirements, or anyone who meets the requirements can apply for the bachelor or the master's program. What you want to be mindful of is the visa to study in the United States. As you likely know, the student visa is called the F1 visa, and visa officers usually are more strict about study gaps than the universities are. And so while we will accept a student with a study gap of any length of time, the visa officer is probably going to question you about this. And so you need to have a really good explanation of why you've had a study gap in your education career. So what have you been doing during this time? Why are you applying for the university now? What are your plans? What are your intentions? So you really need to think through your experience and be able to explain this to a visa officer. So again, you can apply to Minnesota State University. That's not a problem, but you just need to be prepared for that visa interview to explain yourself.
That's great. So, well, we have another question from Azad. He asked that I have a bachelor degree of computer science. Am I eligible for masters in health science without GRE test?
Good question. Yes. So the Masters of Health, well, actually, let me verify this before I give you that. I do not believe they are requiring GRE at this time. I just want to confirm that because, again, each program at MSU is slightly different in their admission requirements. So I don't want to tell you the wrong information.
Okay, no problem. You can take your time.
So I'm just looking on our website just to verify. So we have the Masters of Applied Health Science. Okay. Bear with me just one moment. I will have the answer for you in just a short
So
moment.
no problem, Lawrence. You don't have to worry about it.
Yes, I
Because
found
it's
it. I just wanted to confirm, but no, the GRE is not required for the Masters of Applied Health Science. What is required is completing a bachelor degree, which you did complete in computer science. You also need to have a personal statement explaining why you are pursuing health science. So you would probably want to talk about that transition from computer science to health science in that statement of purpose. What's your academic and your professional goals with making that change? You will also need 3 letters of recommendation, and these can either be from professors from your computer science program, or if you have been working in a job or a career, they can also be colleagues or professional references. And then you would also, of course, need English proficiency, so such as a TOEFL or an IELTS score. But yes, you can apply for the Master's in Health Science without the GRE.
Well, if I'm not wrong, that Minnesota State University has more than 130 programs, right? So
That is correct.
It's kind of tough to remember all the programs' name at this moment. Okay.
Yes. So, and especially when each one has slightly different requirements, because some programs do require the GRE. So I always have to verify because each program is also changing their requirements from time to time. So it's always good to verify.
Okay, no problem. So here is another question from Fahim Ahmed that he wrote that he had completed his bachelor 3 years degree. Can he apply for masters with Duolingo?
That is a great question. So the 3-year degree is always the questionable degree for the US. In the US, as you likely know, bachelor degrees are typically 4 years in length. And some universities will see a 3-year degree as equivalent to a 4-year bachelor degree. For the Minnesota State University, the way we determine if a 3-year degree is equivalent to a 4-year degree is by having each student who is applying to a master's program complete a foreign credential evaluation. This is where you would send your degree mark sheets and results to a third party or a company that does credential evaluation. Some of the common ones that students use, you might be familiar with. WES is World Education Services. ECE is Education Credential Evaluators. They do evaluations to determine if your 3-year degree is equivalent to the 4-year degree. So we require any student applying to a master's program who completed their bachelor outside of the United States to go through that foreign credential evaluation process. And the results of that evaluation are sent to the university. And based on that, we determine if you've met the requirements for admission. And so it's difficult for me to answer exactly if your 3-year degree, the 3-year honors degree, would be equivalent to the bachelor degree. It's going to depend on what your degree was in. But that degree evaluation will help. And then, of course, you can apply with the Duolingo English test as well.
That's great. So
So
for me, my
a long answer, but
no, no, no
hopefully.
problem. So I hope that Fahim has got his answer. So we have another questions from a student. He wrote that he is interested in MS Data Science, but he does not have the exact course requirement for the program. But he keen on talking the uh, okay. Does the program require letters of recommendation as well?
That is a good question too. Yes, the Masters of Science in Data Science does require letters of recommendation. Um, the program is actually structured for students who do not necessarily have a background in data science or a related program. So students can begin this program um, really with any background, education background. So they need to have at least a bachelor degree completed or in progress of completion. So if you're in your final year of a bachelor degree program, you can apply for the master's program. You just would need to submit your final degree results when that's completed. And then the requirement for that is having at least a 3.0 grade point average from your bachelor's degree program. And then they do require 3 letters of recommendation for data science. So keep that in mind. It's 3 letters of recommendation. Those can be personal or professors, or if you are working and have professional recommendations, you can also have supervisors or colleagues help write those.
So,
It also, oh, please go ahead.
so if any candidates bring two recommendation for the from the institute and one recommendation letter from the job sector, is it possible to apply?
It is possible, yes.
Okay. Well, so when a student come over our office, they ask firstly they ask about the processing time. So I'm requesting you to tell about the processing time of Minnesota State University, like when they apply till they are having the I-20.
The I-20 in hand, yes. The whole process from when a student first applies and completes their application to an I-20 in hand is anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks. And it can be shorter than that, and it can be longer than that. What it comes down to is as soon as we consider a student's application complete when all of the application materials are received. Students will receive an admission decision typically in 7 to 10 days. So they'll receive that admission offer. And then from there, the student needs to request the I-20 and provide financial documentation of how they will pay for their education in the US. And that is the process that can delay the receiving the I-20, is that I-20 request process, because sometimes it takes the students maybe 1 week, maybe 2 weeks to get all of the documentation together to submit the I-20 request. But once that I-20 request is submitted and we verify the financial information and everything needed to create the I-20, that will be sent to students within 10 days. So it's about 10-day turnaround for admission decision, 10-day turnaround for the I-20. Sometimes it's shorter than that, but it also is, it depends on the student as well and how quickly they can get the documents to us. So that's why I say 4 to 6 weeks, because that's the average when students are getting their documents to us, but sometimes it's faster than that too.
That's great. So I hope all students have got the answer. So we're at the last part of life. So do you have any suggestion to our regional students that how they can study and abroad, like US at Minnesota State University, um, how they can get the facilities from the university? Please.
Yes, absolutely. Um, The first thing I recommend is if you are interested in Minnesota State University, please visit our website. It seems like some students already have because you know a lot about the programs we offer, so that's great. Our website has a lot of information on it, and so I do encourage you to read through the information carefully and then determine what your questions are about admission requirements, scholarships, the application programs. So reading that information first is your roadmap. That's your guide to finding out a little bit more about the university. But ultimately, what I recommend to students is doing a personal self-assessment. So going back to what I said in the beginning about finding the right fit for you, make sure that you understand very clearly what are your academic, your professional, and your personal goals. And make sure that you're making the decision you want to make and not necessarily making it for someone else. I know students get a lot of pressure sometimes from maybe family or relatives, or just they have an idea that, you know, this program is going to give me the job that I want, but maybe they're not really interested in that program. That's not their passion and not their interest. So you really want to determine what is the best fit for you, what are your goals, and plan for that. The other recommendation I have is for the United States. I mentioned the visa process a little bit. Applying for the visa for the US can be intimidating for students, I think, a little overwhelming and intimidating. And so I want to encourage you that as long as you have a clear idea about what your academic, your professional, and your personal goals are, and you think the university in the US that you are applying to meets all of those goals, you will do very well in your interview with the visa officer, because you'll be able to speak confidently about what your intentions are. And that is usually what makes a successful candidate, is having that admission offer to a university in the US, being confident in your answers and knowing what you want to study and why. And then, of course, having all of your other documents ready to go. But once you've done that process of applying or determining which university is the best fit for you, applying, receiving the I-20, you're ready to go for that visa interview and hopefully get the visa to study in the US.
That's great. Well, we are at the last part of our life. So, dear students, we have a big reminder for you that we are doing a spot assessment and application event on 4th March. And here you will have the chance to meet with Elizabeth. Here we are talking with. So don't miss the chance. Please register to our registration form, which you will find at our Facebook page. So register as soon as possible and grab your seat. And thank you, Elizabeth, for staying with us. Um, have a great day.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, students, for joining us today. I hope to see you on 4th of March.
So এতক্ষণ আপনারা যারা শিক্ষার্থীরা আমাদের সাথে ছিলেন তাদেরকে ধৈর্য ধরে থাকার জন্য অনেক ধন্যবাদ। আই হোপ সো আপনারাও অনেক ভালো আছেন, আপনাদের অনেক প্রশ্নের উত্তর পেয়েছেন। যারা আমাদের সাথে আছেন তারা আগামীতেও আমাদের সাথে থাকবেন। আমাদের যদি 4 তারিখ ইভেন্টে জয়েন করতে চান, যত তাড়াতাড়ি সম্ভব আমাদের রেজিস্ট্রেশন লিঙ্কে গিয়ে রেজিস্ট্রেশন করে ফেলুন। যদি আপনার মিনেসোটা স্টেট ইউনিভার্সিটি সম্পর্কে আরও কোনো কোয়েরি থাকে, আরও কোনো অ্যান্সার কোয়েশ্চেন থাকে, সেটা আপনি স্পটে এই এলিজেবল লরেন্সের সাথে সামনাসামনি কথা বলে অ্যাসেসমেন্ট নিতে পারবেন এবং আপনার সব প্রশ্নের উত্তর নিতে পারবেন। পাশাপাশি যদি কেউ স্পটে অ্যাপ্লাই করতে চান, তাহলে আপনাদের সাথে আপনাদের পাসপোর্টের স্ক্যান কপি এবং অল ডকুমেন্টস স্ক্যান কপি নিয়ে আসবেন। তাহলে ওইখানে স্পটে আপনার অ্যাপ্লিকেশন করতে পারবেন। অ্যান্ড আরও স্টাডি অ্যাব্রড সম্পর্কে নতুন নতুন নিউজ পেতে আমাদের ইউটিউব চ্যানেলে সাবস্ক্রাইব করতে পারেন, বেল আইকনটি প্রেস করতে পারেন। অ্যান্ড আরও আমাদের এই লিঙ্কের সাথে থাকার জন্য সবাইকে ধন্যবাদ। আসসালামু আলাইকুম।